Okay, everybody, I think we'll kick it off. Apologies, my sincere apologies about a bit of a mix-up with the event, but we finally got in, and thank you to all the university students that have come in as well. I really appreciate it. So I think in the interest of the time, we will kick it off. So today what we're going to be covering is the Overcoming Challenges in Digital Transformation, which is sponsored by IIBA, our Institute of Business Analysis chapter, which is Australia's chapter, and our Melbourne branch. I will start off by acknowledging the countries. So IIB Australia acknowledges traditional owners of the country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, borders and culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people present with us today. So what I wanted to start off with, IOBA is a big community, just particularly for the students may not be aware. We have got lots of events and like these ones, networking events. What we also do offer is a lot of study groups. So we do have some study groups. We have the main study group has actually just finished recently, and we did cover Babok as a study group. We do have some new study groups that you could potentially do online, and that one that is coming up is in September on product ownership analysis study group. So if you're interested in product ownership, that could be an interesting event to get into. And you can check a lot of our events on the IIBA website. Oops, I clearly pressed the wrong button. If you are interested, so that's a new one that's coming up, there is a code that you might want to consider. There is a student code as well that if you want to express your interest. Okay, that's big land. And I do this normally in the mornings when I go for a quick jog. So what is that me?
No, you're right.
Oh.
Wrong button. Yeah.
Okay. As we are a volunteer group, including myself, so I should probably introduce myself first as well. If some of you, most of you may or may not know me, Maria Montgomery. I am actually an IIBA Melbourne chair. I actually do, and I spend a lot of time personally myself as a volunteer. We are a volunteer group. And what we do invite particularly people that are interested in volunteering. If you're interested, you can actually scan the code and join our group. It's great for networking, potentially getting different opportunities to meet different people from different companies. And all of this wonderful work that we tried our hardest today is actually done by volunteers. The other thing to mention, we have got upcoming courses. We are sponsored now by SoftEd. They're actually a skills and development group. So if you're keen on AI for business analysis, it's a huge topic within not just business analysis, but also within the community. And I'm actually done a lot of research recently myself on AI. You can actually join that course, and there is one coming up in November 6 to 8. And SoftEd is generously, as IIB members, providing using that code, you can receive a discount as well. So if you're also interested, so we are all heavily getting involved in Business Analysis Festival. That's another big event that's coming up. And the Melbourne event is actually on the 18th of October. So all of our volunteers, including us here, including myself, have been quite busy putting an amazing event together. We have got lots of speakers. We've got some international speakers coming in. And it's a great day to do the networking, but as well as learn and also progress in your career. So something you might want to consider, there is a code to take into consideration. It does go from 8 to 5:30 at the RSC City Club, and then we catch up afterwards for drinks and more networking as well. So check it out. You'll see all the public speakers, including myself, and I'll be talking about AI as this very great, interesting topic for me at the moment.
Yeah. 18th. But it's
18th.
19th.
18th of October.
So what's before that?
The event before that.
Well, it says the 14th to the 18th.
Oh, sorry, yes. So there is other states. So our whole festival is going from Sydney, Perth, and ours is actually, so you might be
So it's
confusing.
just a one-day event.
Yeah, but for Melbourne is one day, but if you're interested in going to other states, we've got people coming from Adelaide and other events, but yeah. We're on Friday, which is good. We could have nice drinks and relax. Okay, and now would I like to introduce our famous speaker today, Trevine. Trevine is a business analyst at Oricon. I'm shocking with pronunciation. And he spent a lot of time in the IT industry. Oh, actually, I pressed that wrong. And I can't wait to hear his talk on a very interesting subject today, and I hope everybody will enjoy it.
Okay. Thank you, Maria. All right. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's settled in. Question I'd like to ask. Who are you, before I talk about myself? Do we have, and you all know why you're here, to learn something about digital transformation. But any proud business analysts in the house? I know we've got a few here. How about in the audience? All right, good. Anyone who is curious to be a BA, figuring out what the whole BA thing is about?
Still learning.
New, still learning? Good. And senior BAs, BA alumni, some people who have been in BA roles before, moved on to bigger things since. Nice. So we've got a good mix, and some potential BAs, full of potential, senior BAs midway through their journey, and senior BAs who have moved on to other things. That's a great mix. Now let me ask you another question. You've obviously heard this, but raise your hands if you've heard the term digital transformation before this presentation. Probably everyone, right? And I feel like it's one of these overused buzzwords in the corporate where we hear it day after day after day. Can someone in the audience tell me what it means to you? Any takers? Did anyone find out what digital transformation means? Any definitions? Anyone can speak up, yep.
I can try. Digital transformation is just changing the way in which a business works through digital aid. It could be software, it could be just about digitizing the business from where it is. Could be a brick and mortar to something else. That's my take.
Very good. Round of applause, please. Any other takers? Any other definitions? No? That's okay. So I went on Google to find out what digital transformation is. I was so overwhelmed because there was about 756 million results. And I just couldn't be bothered. So I took my phone out. I asked Siri, hey Siri, what's digital transformation? And it's similar to what she told me. Adoption of digital technology by a company. I don't know if you can read that. That's very simple. It's so nice. And it sort of hits the spot. So I digged a little deeper in Google again. And I found this video, which I want you to watch for a minute before we go on to the rest of the presentation. And let me try to play it. Oh, sorry, that wasn't expected. Couple of definitions. So let's see. In summary, there's 47% of the top 2,000 in the world saying optimizing processes and becoming more operationally agile. 40% say that it's improving customer experience through technology, very similar to your answer. And 31 says it's enhancing employee productivity through cutting-edge tools. So there's a lot of definitions, a lot of meanings, a lot of ways you can define it. Now that's the result of that survey that Google ran, and there's a lot more statistics here. I'm not going to go into each one of them, but that's just to give you an idea of how diverse digital transformation is, how it's defined and interpreted in a lot of different ways. So we have our definitions. We also have people who work in digital transformation. Anyone here who works in digital transformation in the space? One of them? Obviously. If you go on LinkedIn, you'll see names like this. You'll see the name, digital transformation, name of a product like Salesforce, or some Microsoft somewhere. You'll see name, solution architect, business analyst, in brackets, digital transformation, company XYZ. Or else you see digital transformation and the company name. So, based on all of this, what we know is, the phrase has a bit of a reputation. It's being spoken, overused all over the corporate world. We haven't found a good replacement for it. I tried looking for synonyms, I couldn't find one. But what that means is it's probably still very important in today's world for organizations to modernize, because if you remember from the Google slides that I saw earlier, it's going through a bit of a transformation of its own. What I mean by that is it's not digital transformation right now. It's not what it used to be 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or even 40 years ago. Animations are late. What I'm going to show you now is another video. Now, this is something that I stole from a very big company. And this is what a sales pitch looks like for most digital transformation projects. So don't quote me on it. I'm only showing this to you because it's an in-person event. No one's going to sue me for it, hopefully. So please, no photos or recordings. Don't get me in trouble. But let's see what a demo, customer demo for a digital transformation project looks like. So bear with me a minute.
Right. Now, today we will be transforming animals
Stay with me.
into water bubbles. Like so. 1, 2, 3. Ferraverto.
And that's what most of the customers look like after a product demo. They watch someone demonstrate a software and show them how that's going to transform their business. That's what their faces look like. Most of the cases. Any ERP, CRM customers here? One of them. Anyone from consulting firms? Don't be shy. No, I used to be there. Can relate, right? When you do your pre-sales, that's what they look like. And no judgment, I've been on both sides. Now, big or small company, they win the project, they go through implementation, and it's showtime. And that's either, they call it CRP, conference room pilot. They get their customers in a room like this or a smaller room, demonstrate the product that they've been building, and let them try it themselves. And they could call it user training, they call it UAT, they call it a lot of things, but this is what happens usually
Now it's your turn.
when they start using it.
You would like to go first. Mr. Weasley. 1, 2, 3. Ferraverto. Ferraverto.
Anyone relate? One's from the consulting firms. Have you seen this face? Yeah. Have you been this face as a customer? Okay, good. So if you had this face in an initial phase, you're a lucky customer. But if you had it 6 months after going live, then not so lucky. If you had this face 6 months after going live with the product, you're probably one of those customers who are the 70%, where the transformation project probably failed.
Now
And
it's your turn.
Sorry. And that's a big percentage for digital transformation projects. It's a fact that 70% at least fails. You get promised that, you end up with that. So, unfortunately, that's the reality, which is why the topic of this talk today is overcoming those challenges, trying to see if we can get to a better statistic. So, who am I? How did I get here? On a personal note, I am traveling. That's stuff I love to do. I had a baby 3 months ago. That's my little offspring there. So I'm an oldest son of 3, new dad, changing a lot of diapers. I come from Sri Lanka, little town called Morto. I am a digital transformation consultant. I used to be a team lead, project manager, and practice lead for one of the Microsoft Gold partners here in Australia. And prior to that, worked in a lot of startups here in the UK. Right now, I change a lot of nappies, lots of them. And I'm also a senior BA for a design consulting firm in the other side of the city called Oricon. And in my free time, I write some resources on digital transformation. Lucky to be in Melbourne. Great coffee, great whiskey. Do some reading and writing, and like I think you know, I love my Harry Potter. Watch it with my wife every Christmas. Also, that's it. So my BA journey, how did I get here? Started back in 2013 in Sri Lanka for a ERP support firm, working through various projects. So I had no clue what ERP used to be, so I dove right in, learned on the job, dealt with the complexities, and kind of learned about how businesses work under the scene. And we were supporting major clients. They were in defense, energy, transport, health, all kinds of sectors. Projects were tough, but they taught me how businesses operate behind the scenes. And from there, I got my real taste of how to manage a project. So I was really frustrated with how their ticketing system worked. So I looked for alternatives, pitched a project to my boss, luckily got the project, ended up doing that. That used to be my first business case back in 2016. And ended up implementing something they used for about 5 years after that. Fast forward a few years, found myself in the UK working as a service delivery manager for 2 major integration clients we had. One was a merger between 2 big water companies. It was about £1 billion as a program. And then one was a builder's merchant called Travis Perkins. They're a little like Bunnings, just bigger, and they keep acquiring all of the other small ones. That was good until I moved down under. Wasn't easy at the start, but planned a short-term contract gig with a facilities management company while I was doing Uber Eats, like a lot of people do who come on student visa. Then I did my first firm job at a really crazy startup during COVID. Had no choice but to stick through it. Ended up doing about 25 projects and leading that ERP practice, learning a lot more about CRM and ERP. So that was fun until it wasn't. Quit my job there, did a little thinking about what I want to do, because I didn't want to work in a sausage factory kind of place where we churn out project after project. And had some reflection where to figure out, what I truly wanted, something slow, I could go deep, some meaningful work, and realized in every job type that I had, I was doing business analysis work just without the title. So I started looking for BA jobs where I landed a 6-month contract with Transit to help with their workday, finance, and procurement. Now, luckily, the experience all the way here, and a little bit here, with this one. That went on for 18 months. Then I moved on right behind this building to a government agency to run an Oracle implementation as a technical BA. Again, wasn't doing anything technical up here. Everything from here just started helping out here. And finished that project off. Really, really amazing project, I think, and a lot of scope for 9 months. And went on to my new contract at Oricon, helping with Dynamics, trying to improve their customer experience and back office finance. So that's me as a BA. That's what I've been doing for the past 10 or 11 years. So, back to the topic. What is digital transformation? I think we went through a few definitions. I'm going to take you through one more, which is one of my favorite. This time I asked my new best friend, ChatGPT, because I was just too overwhelmed with all the other definitions. And I love this one, because it's so deep and it connects to everything else that I've learned over the past 10 years. Integrating digital technology into all areas of the business, fundamentally changing how it operates and delivers value. Very similar to your answer, but very easy to relate to. And what this means for me is almost every IT project that we undertake is some form of digital transformation. And you might disagree, but if you look at this, Just a couple of examples. Whether we're implementing a CRM system, migrating stuff to the cloud, healthcare, working from home, remote work, ERP systems, whatever you call it, the input is still the same. You are integrating digital technology, ultimately changing how the business operates and delivers value. And if anyone disagrees, I'll still try to find a way to make it true. But no, bear with me. So what drives these projects? We have technology, very obvious one. Competition is a very good one. If someone is being more efficient, why not try to be more efficient and sell more? Efficiency, again, a very important, very obvious one. But what's missing here? If you think about the past 3 to 4 years, or in the last 2 years, what else has driven digital transformation across the world, apart from these ones, the obvious ones? Any answers? Any guesses? What's another good one? Yes?
Automation and efficiencies.
Yeah, that's it. A little outside that. Very good one. You saw the slide, didn't you? Crisis, people. So crisis has driven a lot of digital transformation, whether we like it or not. Because what happens when you panic? Right? So, with crisis, if you take COVID for example, who made the most amount of money with COVID, because of COVID?
Big Pharma.
Big Pharma. Who else?
Shopping,
Online shopping.
online shopping.
More than that.
Seven.
Tech companies. Tech companies made the most after healthcare. Why is that? You're panicking, you need new systems. And not just with COVID, even from times before that. 2008 financial crisis, SARS, one kind of a COVID. That apparently kickstarted remote work back then. So now they did it in 2003, but they managed to. But all kinds of crisis does promote, or is a very good drive for digital transformation. Sorry, not a good one, but it is one, an important one. So now we know that digital transformation is crucial for organizations to stay ahead of their game, to find out what the challenges are, and how we can try our best to overcome them. I say try to overcome most of them because you can't, at least in my experience, you can't fix everything with a digital transformation project, but you can definitely try, and that's what we'll try right now. Start with the common ones, and then we'll discuss a few uncommon ones, and there'll be some QA at the end of the end as well. You could add in any challenges that you found as well. So a few common ones to start with. These are the obvious ones that usually go in the risk register of a project. Legacy systems, meaning the old systems that you want to get rid of. Sometimes that's why these projects start in the first place, but we can't really get rid of all the legacy systems, unfortunately, when we do a DX project. I'm going to call it DX because digital transformation is too long, too many syllables. Okay. And there's always that relic of software that you can't get rid of sometimes. Next challenge, resistance to change. Everyone's favorite, I think. People don't like to change. When you're used to doing something a certain way, it's very hard to let go. I think that's kind of human nature. But that becomes a very big problem when it comes to our projects. Number 3 for me is lack of strategy. Many things we can do about it, luckily. And number 4 for me is conflicting priorities. There's a 5th one. These are just categories. I'll come to the 5th one lastly. But let's discuss these just one by one. So legacy systems are old systems. Why is a challenge? Now, the problem with these are they're usually embedded deeply in the company's culture, in the company's business cooperations. If you take a manufacturing firm, for example, if they're very, very specialized in something, there's only probably one piece of software that can do the job for them. They probably can't get rid of it. But what happens with some of these in digital transformation projects is that you end up wrapping so many bandages around it, so many patches around it, just to get around the limitations of these systems if they decide to stay as part of their project. I'll give you an example on a project that I worked recently. I had a client who was using this piece of software to get their employees paid. I'm using a payroll system because it's a very generic one that everyone can probably relate it to. You all get paid, I'm sure. So this one, this one payroll system was ancient. It had no database. It was using files to store employee records, superannuation, deductions, tax, all of it in 2023. No APIs, if you've heard of it, so no way to integrate with other systems. And there was one person in the company who was taking care of it and knew what to do if it broke. And this person was very close to retirement, and no one else knew what to do. What that meant was, if she left or the system crashed, people don't get paid. They decided to keep the software. And this was the system integrator's nightmare, because it was that file-based system. It didn't have any way to communicate with any other system. So it was so out of date, inflexible. It ended up becoming more expensive to integrate around it than to replace it. But because the company was so inflexible, they didn't want to replace it. We ended up building 12 different integrations instead of 3 to get the people information from their HR system into the payroll system, to get them paid, and to get their pay details into accounting. 12 instead of 3, we could have replaced the software for cheaper. And the lesson, I think, for business leaders is 2 words from my experience: sunk costs. They spend so much money on it, so they want to keep it. And I wish I used this example, and we wouldn't have to build what we had to build in that instance. Anyway, what's done is done, so you can't change it. But what you can do is, in situations like this, if you get in early on, you try to spot the risks. Try to prioritize instead of trying to do everything at once. You do it phase by phase. The problem that happened with this project is we were trying to replace everything, or trying to integrate everything together. And we had to stop just to make sure people don't get too overwhelmed and there's not too much of change that people can't absorb. So we did a phased approach, we did one by one, and sort of managed to scale from there. So number 2, misalignment with IT. And why is it a challenge? Now, typically IT departments, they usually focus on infra, stability, cyber security, and their goals usually center around keeping the lights on. The KPIs are usually system uptime, security. Now, the business, on the other hand, they focus on things like customer satisfaction, revenue growth, money, expanding the business. And in most businesses, unfortunately within 2024, IT is seen as a cost center instead of a strategic partner who helps you go forward. And sometimes, unfortunately, they're the nerds where you go to get your laptop fixed when there's a computer emergency. I work in IT these days. I'm not fixing laptops, fortunately. But in that past project that I spoke to you about earlier, which kickstarted my BA journey for me, I worked a lot with IT. And they were a lot more knowledgeable than people took them for. They were the one who gave me access to the servers, the licenses for the products, all the technical support I needed, and even some tips on how I can save some money. We ended up throwing a good party after the project because we managed to save some money from the budget. They know a lot more than fixing computers. Get together with them, get them involved a little bit. There's a lot you can do. Your project will go a lot more faster. And there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can start by promoting their capabilities inside the company. You can try to create cross-functional teams to improve collaboration. This is a picture shared by my boss, who is a lead BA at Oregon. This is what it looks like when that happens. Outside it might look good, inside this is what ends up happening. But it's not this bad, at least not where I'm working. It's not this bad. It's struggle. We still get the work done. But creating the cross-functional teams, getting them involved in digital transformation projects early on, they help you spot more risks than you end up with systems integrators sometimes, or by yourself if you don't have one, if you're trying to do it by yourself. And it's not that hard to coexist if you get to know them. it works. Number 3, a lack of clear vision or strategy. What does that mean? What it basically means is that the organizations who try to do these projects, they don't know why they're doing it in the first place. A lot of companies end up doing digital transformation because they have a little bit of money before the end of the financial year that they need to spend, and without a clear vision of why they want to do it in the first place. Someone else is doing it, you've got some money, let's do it. These are the 70% of projects that fail. And they get themselves into these projects thinking they could do it with a couple of $100,000, and it ends up eating their bottom lines. And then blame a supplier for it, or a product for it, when they didn't have a vision in the first place. If you look at AI, for example, everything and everyone comes with it, right? And they don't know why they're using it, but their competitors are slapping an AI label on it, they'll slap it on. So I broke my washing machine last month, and I had to buy a new one. And guess what it comes with? AI, right? And big surprise, does it wash my clothes any better? Well, I don't know. It tells me when the clothes are done. It tells me when the door's unlocked. That's it. I couldn't find anything AI about it, just alerting at best. Right, now if you look at this picture, can someone tell me what's wrong with it? Anyone? That's nice, isn't it? Fancy laundry? Look closely. Give me a second.
Where's the water?
That's probably in the back, don't worry about the water. Good point. It'd be good to have a sink, wouldn't it? That's good. What else is wrong with it? That's missing, but what's wrong with it?
The base is too high.
The base is too high. Okay, that could be storage. There's washing machines like that. But yeah, it could be too high for some people to reach. But what's that chair doing there? And what's the plant doing there? You put a plant and a chair in your laundry? Anyone?
There's a nice view.
It's a nice view. It looks nice. Does it serve a purpose? And my wife would love to have this kind of a laundry. Because my laundry is a mess, right? She would love to have a laundry that remotely looks like this. She watches our Architectural Digest, so she keeps a nice house. But that chair costs about $1,000, and that plant's going to die with all the condensation inside. And that's how most digital transformation projects start. They look at that customer demo, which looks beautiful. They want all the nice bells and whistles. They get into projects thinking that they will get this. It's not what they get. Now, with me doing the laundry, it's going to look like this. Or worse, that. Now, if I was to design the laundry, it wouldn't look this nice, but it'll have that. And then, to put the dirty clothes in. It doesn't look nice, but it works. And that's what I think as PAs, as senior BAs, people who are working in strategy, or even the people working in operations should probably tell our bosses, if you're going into a big project like this, to have a clear vision of where you're going and why you want it. Because otherwise, you end up with that beautiful looking laundry that does nothing for you. There's no sink, like you said, there's no tap. And chair and plant's just going to die. So, in cases like this, it's wasted resources, missed opportunities, organizational misalignment because it's not going with your business goals, and it's inconsistent because I don't have a place to put my clothes. I'll put it on the chair. So it's important that we define first what you want from a digital transformation project. You develop a roadmap, then you keep measuring and adjusting. You can set a deadline or a target date, but you probably never go live on that day. It's still important to have a roadmap. Then as you go, you measure and adjust. And then you align your technical investment with the business goals, not just to make it look nice. At least the successful ones, they do this. They align their IT investments with the business goals, and then they get IT to work together with the business functions. Now that's number 4. Before talking about number 5, and this is one of my favorites, and I'm sure this is part of your day-to-day as well if you're working in such projects. And this is where project managers and BAs become best friends. Can someone tell me what you see on the center of the screen? Anyone?
It's a viewfinder, and you put the tripod when it's pretty heavy. It doesn't.
It's a target?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right?
To keep the
To keep the shooter to aim at, right?
stay.
Do you think they'll make the shot? Do you think the shooter with the rifle will make the shot? Almost.
Almost. Okay.
How about now?
No.
No. How about now? No chance, right? They get spooked. Can someone tell me who this is? It's a very good friend of ours in digital transformation projects. So creep. So it's creep, right? And it is creepy, right? When it creeps into our projects,
Yes.
right? And he's been creeping into my project for the past 10 or 15 years, taking me, taking the project team, taking the business away from their target. Now we all know it's a problem. We all know why it's a challenge. It causes project delays, budget overruns, strains our resources, quality is gone. Most importantly, it takes us away from our core objectives because we haven't defined it in the first place. Right? So what causes it? Undefined requirements, changing business needs. Businesses have to change. That's sometimes okay. It causes scope creep. Some scope creep is actually okay. We'll get to that in a bit. Different priorities, just like earlier. No change management or poor change management. And then, this is my favorite one, over eagerness to deliver value. So, now, changing business needs, I don't think it's always bad because sometimes you have to respond and adapt to the market. Like, take COVID for example, you had to do things. Stakeholder alignment, that's a tough one, but something that needs to get fixed. So let's see how to go about these things. If you have undefined requirements, you start by clearly defining the project. Now you, say for example, you join a project as a BA, mid-project, and the requirements are clear as mud, and it can be interpreted differently. What would you do? The project manager says you don't have time to be defining requirements now. What do you do at that stage? Has anyone come to this situation? Has anyone had this situation in their jobs? Don't have time to define requirements? What worked for me is, and this was a bit of a bold move, I thought I lost my job. I asked the project manager, if you don't have the time to have clear requirements, would you have time for change requests or would you have budget for change requests? Immediately gave me the chance to write the requirements, but that doesn't mean if you get that chance, you spend all day, all night redefining the requirements. If you're mid-project, you probably need to refine the requirements in a way that it's not misinterpreted to a developer so that they don't build the wrong thing and move on. Setting realistic expectations with your stakeholders, that's important because when businesses and their needs change, they want to go fast and they sometimes don't realize that it takes a lot of effort to stop doing what you were doing, building, and then start building it all over again. So as a BA, it's important to work with your PMs to set realistic expectations, give them a heads up saying that this is what we can deliver in this time. You okay with it? If not, reprioritize. Because you got limited resources, you got to work with what you have. That's the reality. Now for lack of stakeholder alignment, I said be agile and over communicate. Now what I mean by that, by be agile, notice I said be agile, not do agile, is to have an adaptable mindset, to be a little flexible. Because if the stakeholders are aligned and you're not aligned, it's very hard to get aligned and go on the same journey together. And why I also say be agile is because agile or scrum might not work for the project. But being flexible and adapting goes a long way. To make the best of it. When I say over-communicate, I don't mean write long emails. I used to do that in the past. It didn't help. People like short emails, summarized for them. But as and when you see something creeping, give people a heads up, say that you noticed it, ask questions. That helps. Now, if it's a flat organization, you can probably do that, great. But where there's a little more structure, might be a little hard. There's ways that we can do it if we go further in the web. We'll find them. And God forbid if there's politics, you then probably better off speaking to a project manager and program manager, but help them by articulating what the problem is, how it's going to affect the business need or the strategy. Change management, if it's not there, you could start by formalizing a change management process, templates and entry criteria. It's all there in the bubble. Google it up, ChatGPT, whatever that helps. Work with your change manager or the corporate communication people to help articulate what's changing for them. And help them assess that impact, because they might not be as close as you are as a BA or as someone who is technical, someone who is helping the business on an operational basis even, to understand what the change is. So that clear communication is very important as well. On the final one, I've been guilty of this. Has anyone been guilty of this? You see a product, you know that you can implement it, so you say, yes, I will be at this. Now, and it's okay to deliver more value. It's a good thing, it's not a bad thing, as long as it doesn't take you away from this. Because that's where we go wrong with scope creep and ending up creating our own scope creep. So it's good to know that things can be done, but in a project where the stakes are high, I've always found that things like this need to go in what is called a backlog rather than into the timeline. Because in most digital transformation projects, although you define whatever timeline you do, there's not enough time to get half of it done. So good ideas are good. Don't let them die. Write it down. When you get a chance, get it implemented if there's a buffer. Otherwise, leave it. If it's something that could speed things up, by all means. But focusing on the core objectives and maximum impact. And prioritization techniques, there's so many in the level, so I'm not going to go deep into those ones. So those are the common ones, the ones that you see in the risk register, the ones that get spoken about. What are some of the uncommon ones, if I may ask from the audience, that you might have noticed in your projects that we didn't go into? As I just mentioned, 5 there, very broad ones. Can anyone think of something that wasn't here? Or does that just encapsulate everything for you?
Not sure if it's the same, but stakeholder engagement.
Yeah.
So that's essentially at the beginning phase, they're not as engaged. They just say very high level stuff. There's nuances that are missed, which ends up being scope creep later, and then maybe during sprint demos they don't join, so they don't really know what's being built. And you end up with a product that is not what they expect at the end.
And then QAT, or if they attend UAT,
Yeah.
once it's gone live, they'll blame you for it. Good. Right? Yeah, good one. I've got some solutions for that, but I'll speak about a few uncommon ones that I found. And let's go to the solutions after that. Right? One for me, very uncommon one is shortcuts. It's not uncommon, it's just not registered. People don't notice it because they're under so much pressure. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking shortcuts, you know. I take shortcuts all the time, and it saves me time, it saves me energy, it gets me where I want to go. But what kind of shortcuts should you take? The ones that don't get you in trouble, right? Or the project in trouble. And this happens, and sometimes you can't avoid it when the stakes are high, when there's too much pressure. Developers might take shortcuts, stakeholders might take shortcuts and give you half-baked decisions. But if you notice it, what it ends up doing is a lot more work for someone else to clean up later. Right? Now, at the moment, in one of the projects that I'm in, we are supporting this CRM system. And for each, I'll just give a very small example. For each financial year, client leaders are meant to publish what is called a client plan. And in the CRM system, there's a field that says client plan FY23 and another field that says FY24. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with that? Anyone technical? Any developers in the house? No? But imagine you build a CRM system, and for each financial year you have a new field for 10 years, if you use that system, you'll never be able to report on that. So that for me is compromising architecture. Now, it's not my place I'm not an architect, so it's not my place to call it and stop it. But as a BA, all I can do is notice it, write it down, and refer it to an architect. Unfortunately for me, architects run away, so all I could do in that case was document it. Shortcuts like this, everyone takes them. As a BA, based on your experience, you might be able to notice it, but if you don't have the experience, what helps is to work with architects, work with people who do have the experience, and just check your solutions. Check what the other person has done if you can't. Get it validated. So in the BA book, we talk about verifying requirements and validating them. Validation is very important. If you can't do it, get someone to do it for you. At least document it. What you think might be the issue, verify it, validate it. That's what helps. Anyone dealing with this? All the time? And sometimes there's nothing we can do about it. But one thing we can do about it is don't be part of it, right? Because then you're going nowhere. And challenges are pretty obvious. People are competing for different things. If you're implementing something like an ERP system, for example, everyone in the business wants a part of it. Finance wants their books closed faster. HR wants their candidates in first. Payroll wants their payrolls. Anyway, going to happen because people are going to get paid. But everyone wants a piece of it. And as BAs, what we can do is start by creating common vision. I'll go into the techniques in a bit. But if there's this, the big one earlier, resistance to change happens because people are scared. That's what I've learned, at least. In most digital transformation projects, jobs change, org structures change. Some jobs go away from the company. So people are scared, really. So give them that confidence, not that their job will stay. As a BA, it's probably not our place to do that, but show them the opportunities. And if you come across situations like this, try not to take sides. I've always seen that the moment I take a side, that's when you're judged as a BA as well. And if you can play that impartial, neutral mediator role, then that's what will bring the most benefit, is what I've found. And if the bosses are fighting over what they want, let them have it. As long as it doesn't impact your code or your requirements. When it does, that's when you call your project manager in, try to get them in a room together, start here, go there. And if this decision-making process isn't there, work with your project manager or change manager to write one down. It always helps. You've got decision modeling and a whole bunch of tools in the develop to help with that. Next one up is shadow IT. These are the tech ninjas inside companies who come up with different systems, right? And I've been guilty of being this person for so long. IT used to hate me because I would come up with some Excel sheet or some cloud tool that I find to just get my job done faster, not tell IT about it, right? Say for example, you're in marketing, you want to collaborate with vendors, get something printed, and SharePoint is locked out. You can't wait for IT to fix it for you, so use Google Drive or Dropbox. Share the pictures. And I've done it. And did you know that there's billion-dollar companies, I used to work in one, who run their entire businesses on Excel when they spent millions on CRM systems, because who needs an expensive CRM system when you got pivot tables? That was the answer that I got. And the problems that come with this is all of this. That's not the business's concern, that's IT's problem to fix. Or so you think. But why does it happen? People like speed. Remote work made it happen a lot. And people want to innovate, so it's not a bad thing when it happens. But what you can do as a BA, or whatever your title is when you spot the risk, also learn to prioritize what action you take and what you don't take. If it's harming your project, take action. If it doesn't have any consequences to the business, I would forget about it. Because why would we just? It's working fine and it's not taking us away from our goals or business goals, or if there's none of these, I didn't say this. Early stakeholder engagement, very important. I think you brought that up. So engage early and engage often is my theory, because otherwise it will be very hard when these systems pop up mid-project. That's what ends up becoming scope creep for you. And try to offer better tools. For the people who do this, it could be a developer running a macro on a Google sheet. It could be the person who's running the pivot tables instead of a CRM. It's important to work with them as long as you're not taking too much time from your project to understand what logic is there, because you might as well implement that into your project. That's the good kind of scope creep, which you can advise the business and say that this is the logic that we need in CRM instead of what the system integrator is presenting to us. There's many ways to go about it. As a BA, it's up to you to pick and choose which one works. So that's the last of the challenges. We'll go to more challenges in Q&A. I want to quickly cover 7 key strategies from the playbook that we can use to overcome most of these challenges. Not all of them, most of them. Right? Number 1 for me is aligning with business goals. If you don't have a business case, write one. Like I said, even if it's mid-project, just write one. It doesn't have to go into a lot of detail as long as it's clear enough for your stakeholders to understand and for developers to understand. Mission, level 6.2, gives us 3 good tools. Again, future state description can go on and on and on, but as long as you've got the high level at least to start with, build on from there. A very important one that he brought, engaging stakeholders early and regularly, because otherwise you end up where you were telling me as well. Everyone goes through it. There's a lot of techniques, but I find that just a resume matrix works as well in most cases because it kind of covers a bit of these as well. It tells you who is responsible, who needs to be consulted, it kind of tells you what the relationships are. It kind of works well for me. Change management, it's never easy because change is tough. Like I said, change is tough for people. So we need solid change management strategies. And you define the strategy of how change will be handled using some of these techniques. Just these 2 to start with, you're halfway there, even without change manager in your project. You don't do it, you end up where what you said, that ends up happening because people don't get involved. And if you don't have it, you can get together with your SMEs and your project sponsor and agree on one and then write it down. And then with that in a piece of paper, you can have all the workshops, get all the feedback that you need. And these 2 are just 2 extra ones that I thought outside of the development be useful, or the stuff that I use sometimes in bigger projects. Scope creep, favorite one. Several ways you can go about it, but you don't have to complicate it too much either. With the whole scope model, I don't do that. I use phases for waterfall projects. I split the work into phases, at least from my project management days, and then run what is called sprint planning for agile projects. That way, scope is controlled, we know what the capacity of the team is, and we just get done what we can get done in that part. For change control, there's a lot of ways that you can go about it, but from the above, I think prioritization method is important. In fact, assessment is important. If you have all these components written down, don't bother writing them down, not right now, just use ChatGPT for it and tailor it. Save some time if you don't have these in your company. And that helps with scope creep. Data is very important to track progress. You can't measure what you can't, you can't improve what you can't measure, right? So say you want to lose weight, you don't know what you are right now, you're never going to know what you're going to be a couple of months down the line now. I'm going for a dad bod, so I'm having a lot of beers and pizzas these days. But I know what my weight is and I know how much I'm going to put on, right? That's what's important. Figure out the metrics, that's very important. And you'll probably have to work with your PM to figure out 2 kinds of metrics. One for the project, because sometimes project managers do need that help from a BA. That's stuff that you can figure out early on, set it up, and let the project manager then track things like velocity, burn down, story points, whatever they call it. But if your project goal is around measurable improvement of efficiency, time, cost savings, or production, then you need to work with your SMEs a little earlier to figure out what their baselines are for the industry, what their current numbers are and what their target is that they expect after the project. Because otherwise, at the end of the project, they will ask you, what's our return on investment? They might not ask you, they'll ask the firm who is implementing, but if you're in consulting, get that from your BA. Otherwise, you're in trouble. And then once you've got these two, data dictionary is something you can't live without, because when it comes to the actual project work, as a minimum, you probably need the data dictionary and the data flows, because that's what's going to help you with your integrations, customizations, workflows, testing, reporting, notifications, all of it. Without that, it's just a nightmare of emails back and forth. Risks. Now, we need to be proactive about it. If there's no risk register, just create one. If there's no risk management system, that's fine. Just create one. I find that helps. Just do it on Excel. Later on, you can move it to somewhere that people can track it. Never hurts to do a SWOT. And root cause analysis, there's lots of ways to do it. I like the 5 whys, where you keep asking why each time, 5 times, when there's a simple problem, probably not for complex ones. And by the 3rd or 4th why, you usually get to the bottom of it. For complex ones, there's stuff like fishbone, which you can use, which I've used only a handful of times at least. But it's a good one. Team collaboration is important, because you can't do a project by yourself. Everyone needs to come together to come up with creative solutions. Now, these techniques might help, but what's most important is in any project you have each other's backs, because when things go wrong, because things do go wrong. And if I've learned anything in the past 10 years, the blame game just never works. So, that brings me to the end. Do you have any questions? That's my 3-month-old there, by the way. Helping me with being a Scrum Master. Any questions? Yes?
You mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that roughly 7% of all the transformation projects are failing. I was just wondering, like, based on your experience, what do you think are the main reasons for such a high failure rate? Because there's also, I would imagine, a lot of money involved. Because when a large project fails, or 7% in total, that means a lot of losses, right?
It is. And my opinion about it, or at least the way I feel about it, is mainly lack of strategy. Companies don't know why they're doing the project in the first place. They think they have to do it because another company is doing it. They think they have to do it because they've got to spend some money, or they have some very high-level vague goals around it. They would think, at least in my experience, and I've worked in about 30 or 40 of these 30 to 35 projects, the ones that failed, they wouldn't call it a failure, they'll just delay it. But you've got to look at how much money you budgeted and how much money you ended up spending, and to see if it's delivered the value that you thought it would deliver. That's how they define failure, at least for these projects. So in those cases, at least for me, in the projects that I work, definitely lack of strategy. Scope creep's been a big one, because you start with a very small scope. Some projects in some small startups that I worked on, they had little budgets of like 100,000 to just implement a small CRM system for a small business. That ended up becoming 300,000. The same happened to a not-for-profit right here in South Bank. That ended up becoming the same budget as well. Now, they were presented software. I was from the consulting side in this case. So we presented the software, we showed them what it can do. But as a business, they also failed to ask the questions that they needed to. So it's a two-way street. It's not just the consulting firm's fault or the business's fault. It's about how the team comes together to see if they have the right priorities, they have the right frameworks, they have the right governance, and the whole mix of it. There's a lot of reasons. But for me, it's mainly been lack of strategy and poor project management as well to a part. And I wouldn't say no, I mean, poor business analysis as well for a big part. Because if the requirements were defined somewhat clearly, and if the consulting firm took enough time to understand that and give customers a better, more tailored experience, then those projects would have a better success rate, because everyone understands what they want. But the struggle is customers probably don't know what products can do for them. They find out later. And consulting firms mostly want to do project after project, and they try to do a cookie cutter approach for everyone. Doesn't work that way. That's just my thought.
My comment about this is that